Alright guys, here we are to talk about the Twilight Zone, Season 3, Episode 2 of the Twilight Zone. And this episode doesn't make any sense.
Not really, no.
And this one, I remembered I didn't remember the 100% the episode, but I remembered him putting his hands into the thing and it just bling, and being out of existence. But
I did not remember this episode.
But
I usually
nothing
don't,
about this. Think about the whole thing, right? So we have a man who either you can take it as that was his thing the whole time because he says how he remembers those names and it sounds so familiar and blah, 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 blah. But then that means he was solving his own case, which didn't exist and never actually happened, so he didn't actually solve it. And then how did that actually prove anything? And
his brain is trying to reconcile this. This is his white whale. This is the one thing he never solved, and he's looked into it so much, and now he's suffering through a delusion of actually having some tangible way to start to solve the case, but it all falls apart.
The problem is it started off so interesting.
Yeah, it's super
the
interesting.
whole and this is I think a number of the Twilight Zone episodes having this issue where you have this idea, this thread, this you have the recipe here for something really good.
Tasty gumbo.
Up until the point where they're reading the different numbers and saying how they see different colored seats, it was still good. And then from the moment where he's like, I know with 100% proof that this is not really here. And I was like,
okay.
You can't, what?
There's
no reason to believe that.
Right.
Why would you test that with your hand? I'm like, would it not be proof enough that
cantaloupe through there.
But think about this logistically.
Yeah.
You are under such a perception of reality that you believe this to be real that you're able to touch it, right? You've touched it multiple times.
Yeah.
People are in it. Someone had to drive it to where you're going to touch it. A man is inside it right now.
Yep.
If you believe in it that much, it does not stand a reason that you could believe that you're going to lose a hand and you could just lose your hand or at least feel the pain of it.
Right. Whatever would make you able to touch it should also make the blades able to touch your hand. I completely agree.
And that drove me nuts. Where I was like, all right, you are committing to a theory so hard with no basis for proof whatsoever. Could it not just be it is the newest brand of active camouflage and no one sees the same thing? Are there not a million plausible things you could make up if nothing makes sense anyway? You could make up that don't make sense also. It just seemed like such a weird stretch to go down. And he didn't attempt to throw something through it at all.
Right,
He felt the wind from the blade.
Yeah,
what is that all?
It was a super jump to conclusions about how it might work that seemed really... I think that this episode's really ambitious. And for a while,
Sure.
that was the problem for me, and I actually think, the point you're talking about, because I think the best thing is you see different colored seeds, he sees a different number than me, and that is probably a seed that has germinated into the brains of young screenwriters that have made all this interesting stuff later on. So the first problem is that I want to stick my hand in it, and it's what?
Yes.
And then I still think they could have kind of saved it had it just ended with him going back and everything being different or whatever, right? And
something.
But they chose, but
it dragged on for so long, and him running through the night and screaming. I was like, what are you doing? Did you just need to fill time?
Yeah, him wandering out into the tarmac at night, and then Rod Serling having the audacity to say, could it be this guy's just crazy, or maybe not? In the Twilight Zone. And I'm like, no, what? You've given us absolutely no reason to think there's anything going on besides that this guy is just crazy.
Yeah.
Which I don't dislike. I think as a little story, as a little thing, if this were turned into a movie with more time and stuff to develop his you could have weird things that happen during the day and the next day and the next day, and you could start to feel like something's not right, and then it could slowly unravel. This was so quick.
If you were really going to paint this picture and try to make it a or was he moment, he should have went back to the airstrip, saw the guy and said, Tully, blah, 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 who are you, mister? And the guy should have not known him at all. When he said, because he makes reference to, aren't you the guy from the FAA or whatever? Because they have met in the past.
Yeah.
So he still does know who he was. Although he does say it was 20 years ago, and that guy looks like he's 30 years old. So I'm whatever.
They lost another flight that many years ago, but they just know Fletcher or whatever from being one of the investigators or something, or they've heard of him or seen his picture or something. But yeah.
It just seemed like they could have painted that in a way that it could have made the twist still alive. Like, it was like, how do you know my name? Who are you? Well, like, 'cause then it would have been like, okay, there's obviously something afoot here. It doesn't explain anything, but something's afoot. Because they're big into that. We're like, we made it just ambiguous enough to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And here I'm just like, come on, you didn't even try. Like, the twist didn't really happen.
Right. All that happened here is he got drunk or just went crazy and wandered, over to the airport, spent some time outside talking to himself, then wandered in and started ranting and raving, and they all said, "Sir, are you okay?" And he was like, "No!" and ran out again. That's literally all that happened.
Well, right before he ran out, he's like, "All right, let me drive you home." And I thought, that's very interesting that the man immediately offers to drive you home. Doesn't know where you live at all.
No, yeah.
And he's like, "I'm willing to drive. I don't want to drive down the street, like, let alone potentially to a different state to drive this guy home."
You think he was trying to get into his pants?
Maybe,
It's the only conclusion I think worth drawing.
I think he might have had some pills. It felt like such a disappointment, because that beginning was so good. I was like, oh, this is kind of creepy. How did that play? All right, where are they? What's the explanation? I can't wait to hear the explanation. Oh yeah, nothing.
Yeah. No, and I do think that core, the kernel of whatever, is strong enough that it does something here to make me. But I just there's nothing. They don't do anything with it really. Right?
I wanted something, because they do talk about, like, and there's been no calls from the families, no blah blah blah. I wanted something like the plane landed out of time with the passengers or something, and like they actually were already home or not home yet or haven't even left yet. Or like, I wanted something, or even if they would have tied it back and been like, this is the plane from that other episode, like, and it landed in the wrong time.
I thought about that, yeah.
Because they hung on the end on like the turbines for a little while, and I was like, do they not know what turbines are? What is the twist here? And then I was like, it's that episode. Fuck.
Oh, it's nothing. No, I know, and I feel like, again, like in a movie with enough time, you could have, because this. In like a movie that has this premise, it would be something like that, right? That like time is like snapping and catching up to itself, and something's amiss, and now it's like correcting or whatever. So he would call. I know. I just called yesterday. What do you mean? What? Who is he there? What do you mean? You don't have a son? Maybe this like weird thing would start to crunch and happen. The Langoliers would start eating the past, like something, right?
They should have got the writers from that episode of the spacemen who were getting like blinked out of existence.
Yeah,
that guy could have fixed this episode.
I'm just thinking about that episode. Yeah, no. So there's nothing
that episode
here.
was so good, so good and
right.
creepy. And this, it fell so short from where it started. Like first half is a 100% A+, and then it's like you barely pass, and you don't actually. I fail your shit. That ending was so disappointing because you built me up so high, Buttercup, just to bring me down, and I don't appreciate that.
And worst of all, you act like you're gonna be good, and you're not.
Just come on, man.
No, like an epic disappointment would certainly not make the top 10, 25, or 100 list of the show or whatever. But I don't think I hated it as much, just because, again, I feel like the idea, like sometimes the idea poised, or like I feel like this might have been the first time that somebody was like, what number do you see, John? Okay, Kowalski, what do you see? Red seats? Oh, like something like that. As a kid would have gotten me so, if it was the first time I was ever being exposed to it, I would have been so like,
and that was so good, and that's the only real reason the end is so disappointing, because it doesn't live up to how good the first half is. Like, I don't even know how you got to that. How do you get from that point to this point? Like, come on, man. Or have him, when he touches the blade, have the day start over like Groundhog's Day. Like something. And he's like, what? What do you mean? Oh, we just had this case. What do you mean? Like, and like, something, anything but what happened.
Yeah, I don't know what it's possible. I always wonder if at the time audiences felt the same way, and it's our context that like changes how we feel about it and all that stuff. Because I don't know, because like as I think more about it, it's like he presented himself as such a, like, he's the man. You know, you drive a Kia, that's your name. He came in like that guy. Like I know I have everything, and this all turned out to be this would have made a fine movie, like a thriller, like a 100-minute long thriller movie with Al Pacino, who could have been like, I never found that plane. He keeps talking about the plane. But finally at the end, he's searching for the same plane or whatever.
I'd picture more of a William Shatner.
Like
right now.
William Shatner now.
Yeah.
Doing kung fu to deals on things on the wing.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's kind of what
No,
happened in
mediocre,
this episode.
disappointment,
Yeah, just
bottom line,
real potential, and
not
then
good.
just, you know, a stinker toward the end. All right, guys, let us know in those comments below what you thought about this episode. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, internets. I just love watching JustDaggers. If you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, click that subscribe button. Peace out, homies.